What if the best movies on Netflix are the ones nobody is talking about? Not the blockbusters dominating the trending tab, but the hidden gems buried deep. The ones that quietly blow your mind and stay with you for days. Today, we're counting down 20 of those overlooked masterpieces. Thrillers that will keep you on edge, dramas that hit surprisingly hard, and stories you won't be able to stop thinking about. Get comfortable. This list is about to change what you watch tonight. But before we start, it would mean the world to me if you took a second to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for your kind support. 20. Dayshift. What would you do if the only way to pay your daughter's school tuition was hunting vampires for a living and you couldn't even tell her about it? That's the impossible situation facing a working-class dad in Los Angeles, juggling a dangerous double life with a smile and a shotgun. On the surface, he cleans pools. Underground, he's one of the most skilled vampire hunters in the city, operating in a world with its own brutal rules, union politics, and lethal consequences for stepping out of line. When financial pressure forces him back into the official hunter network after going rogue, he gets stuck with a nervous bureaucratic partner who has never seen a drop of blood, and the timing couldn't be worse. A powerful and ancient enemy is moving through the shadows of LA, and suddenly a routine job turns into something much more personal. The city at night becomes a battlefield, and every corner hides something with fangs. Fast-paced, self-aware, and loaded with energy. This is the kind of movie that never takes itself too seriously, and that's exactly what makes it so hard to stop watching. Part family drama, part creature feature, all adrenaline. 19. Ibiza. A work trip to Barcelona. That's all it was supposed to be. A chance to prove herself professionally and finally get her career moving. But when her two best friends show up, and a chance encounter introduces her to a magnetic DJ she can't stop thinking about, the trip transforms into something she never planned for. Before she knows it, the three of them are on a plane to Ibiza, chasing a feeling, a night, a man, and a version of themselves they forgot existed. What follows is a whirlwind of neon lights, irresponsible decisions, and the kind of honesty that only surfaces when you're somewhere between 2 in the morning and nowhere near home. Underneath the comedy and the chaos, there's a real question being asked. What do you actually want from your life? And are you brave enough to go after it? Not every romantic comedy earns its emotional beats, but this one sneaks up on you. It's fun, fast, and more genuine than it looks. Sometimes the spontaneous detour turns out to be the whole trip. 18. The incredible Jessica James. She's broke, recently, heartbroken, and absolutely convinced that her ex doesn't deserve a single second more of her mental space, even though she still checks his Instagram. Jessica James is a young playwright in New York, trying to build something real out of a life that keeps refusing to cooperate. The theater is her world, and she's fighting for it with everything she has. When she stumbles into a new connection with a recently divorced man who's equally stuck in his own emotional aftermath, neither of them is looking for anything serious. What they find, though, is something harder to name and much harder to walk away from. Funny, confident, and anchored by an electric lead performance, this is a story about the specific kind of grief that comes after a relationship ends and before you figure out who you actually are without that person. It doesn't try to fix everything by the final frame. It just asks you to sit with a woman who is figuring it out loudly, imperfectly, and with enough charisma to fill any room she walks into. 17. Gunpowder Milkshake. She was raised to be a weapon. Trained from childhood inside a network of ruthless women who operate in the shadows, she became exactly what they needed. Precise, cold, untraceable. But one mission changes everything. A job gone wrong leaves her responsible for a young girl, a stranger she was never supposed to protect. And suddenly, the most dangerous assassin in the room has to figure out what it means to care about someone. With enemies closing in from every direction and no safe place to hide, she turns to the only people she can trust, the women who raised her, each more dangerous than the last. What follows is a visually stunning, stylized descent into neon-lit violence where loyalty is tested, and every hallway becomes a battleground. It's not subtle, and it doesn't try to be. It's a film built around the idea that women who survive often do so because they chose each other. Fast, fierce, and crafted with a very specific eye for action choreography, this one earns every punch. 16. Clinical. She survived the attack. But surviving and healing are two completely different things. And for a psychiatrist who has spent her career helping others navigate their darkest moments, confronting her own trauma may be the one case she's not equipped for. After a violent break-in leaves her emotionally shattered, she slowly returns to practice and becomes fixated on a new patient. A young woman disfigured by a horrific accident who carries a weight that seems almost impossible to understand. The sessions begin innocently, therapeutically, but as the lines between therapist and patient start to blur, reality itself begins to shift. What she's seeing might not be what's really there. What she knows might be a construction. The film leans hard into paranoia and psychological discomfort, using the therapy room as a space where truth and delusion are almost indistinguishable. For fans of slow-burn suspense with a clinical edge, this one doesn't announce its twists, it lets them surface quietly, like something coming up from deep water. 15. Birdbox Barcelona. Whatever is out there, you cannot look at it. That rule has kept people alive, or at least the ones who were lucky enough to learn it in time. Set in the ruins of Barcelona, after an unseen force begins driving anyone who glimpses it to immediate, violent self-destruction, the city is now a place of closed shutters, blindfolds, and desperate alliances between strangers. A father and his daughter move through this broken landscape, seeking safety, seeking meaning, seeking other survivors who haven't lost themselves yet. But the deeper threat quickly becomes clear. Not everything that wants to harm you comes from the invisible world. Some of the most dangerous things are walking around with their eyes wide open, and they have a very different idea of what survival should look like. This companion to the original story expands the universe into new emotional territory, exploring faith, grief, and the terrifying ways that catastrophe can reshape a human being. It's a film about what people choose to believe when the world stops making sense. 14. A classic horror story. 5 strangers share a ride through southern Italy. It should have been a simple trip. Then the camper van leaves the road in the middle of the night, and when they wake up, the forest surrounding them is nothing like any forest they've ever seen. At the center of the trees stands a house that shouldn't exist, strange, decayed, and full of symbols that none of them can read. And the road they came from is simply gone. What begins as a survival situation quickly mutates into something far more unsettling, as the group discovers that this place has a history, a purpose, and rules that were set long before they arrived. This Italian production leans into genre conventions with total awareness. It knows exactly what kind of movie it is, and it uses that knowledge to pull the rug out more than once. If you think you know where the story is going, wait. The real twist isn't in the woods, it's in the mirror. 13. Hold the dark. A child is gone. In a remote Alaskan village buried under permanent winter, a mother reaches out to a wolf expert, a man who has spent his life studying predators to help her understand what took her son. What he finds when he arrives is a community sealed tight with grief and something else, something older. The boy's father is fighting in a distant war thousands of miles away, but when he receives news from home, he begins the journey back, and what he carries with him is harder to define than rage. As the investigation deepens, the violence of the landscape starts to mirror the violence inside the people living in it, and the line between the wolves outside and the darkness within blurs completely. This is a slow, cold, deliberately uncomfortable film, not interested in easy explanations or satisfying resolutions. It sits with moral ambiguity, the way the Alaskan winter sits with the land. Heavy, relentless, and unwilling to lift before it's ready. 12. Someone Great. 9 years together, and it ends in a single conversation. Jenny is a music journalist who just landed her dream job in San Francisco, the opportunity she's worked toward her whole career. And in the same week, the relationship she built her entire adult life around falls apart. The timing is devastating. The morning after the breakup, with boxes still unpacked and a one-way ticket waiting, she calls the 2 women who have been her anchors since college, and they decide to make the last day in New York count. What follows is part epic city adventure, part emotional excavation, The three of them moving through the day while memory after memory surfaces. The beginning of the relationship, the middle, the slow unraveling nobody wanted to name. It's funny, and then it's not. And then it's both at the same time. A film that understands that endings and beginnings can feel identical from the inside, and that sometimes the best thing your people can do is show up and just be there, no answers, just presence. 11. To all the boys I've loved before, she never sent them. 5 letters, each addressed to a different boy she fell for at some point in her life, written in private, sealed, tucked away. A secret ritual for processing feelings she was too afraid to say out loud. And then, somehow, every single one gets mailed. Lara Jean's carefully contained emotional world detonates all at once, and suddenly the past is arriving at her front door. The most complicated response comes from one recipient in particular, a popular boy who suggests they fake a relationship to manage the fallout, and to keep other people from asking questions neither of them is ready to answer. What starts as pure damage control begins to feel like something else entirely. Something real, something terrifying. Something that requires her to stop hiding inside her own imagination and actually show up for her life. A warm and genuinely charming story about the gap between loving someone in your head and loving them in the world, and how crossing that distance changes everything. 10. The half of it. She writes other people's words for money. Ellie is the sharpest student in her small town, quiet, introverted, and convinced that nothing in this place will ever truly understand her. When a well-meaning but academically challenged athlete asks her to help him write love letters to the most compelling girl in school, she agrees for the money. The problem? Ellie can't stop reading about this girl, thinking about her, noticing the details that make her interesting in ways nobody else seems to see. And she begins to wonder if the letters she's writing for someone else are actually the truest things she's ever put into words. Set in a town where belonging feels like a trap and authenticity feels like a risk, this is a story about desire, identity, and the loneliness that comes from being seen only partially by the people around you. Quiet and precise, it earns its emotional payoff the hard way by refusing to simplify what it actually feels like to figure out who you are while the world is busy not looking. 9. The Wonder. Ireland, 1862. A girl has not eaten in 4 months, and she is alive. An English nurse is brought in to observe and verify. Is this a genuine miracle? Or something more troubling hidden behind the language of faith? She arrives skeptical, trained in science and evidence, prepared to expose whatever deception is being protected. But the family's belief is absolute. The community's investment is total, and the girl herself is something she didn't expect. Calm, certain, and not particularly interested in being saved. As the weeks pass, and the nurse watches more closely, the situation becomes harder to categorize. The miracle might be real, or the truth might be darker than anyone in this village is willing to say. A slow, meditative film that uses the clash between faith and reason as a way to explore power, sacrifice, and how deeply a community will go to protect a story it needs to believe. It doesn't give you easy answers. It gives you something better, the right questions. 8. The Pale Blue Eye. West Point, 1830. A cadet is found murdered, and the circumstances are disturbing enough that a retired detective, a man who has seen too much and cares even less, is called in to investigate quietly, before the Academy's reputation is damaged beyond repair. He needs someone on the inside, someone who moves among the cadets without raising suspicion. The young man who volunteers is sharp, oddly perceptive, and writes poetry in his spare time. His name is Edgar Allan Poe. What begins as a procedural investigation into a single death quickly reveals a network of secrets threading through the institution, rituals, obsessions, and connections that go far deeper than anyone anticipated. The partnership between the weathered detective and the young cadet drives the film. 2 men from different worlds, bound by curiosity and by something darker they both sense is coming. Atmospheric and genuinely eerie, it plays like a gothic puzzle where every piece reveals another question underneath it. 7. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. Malawi. The rains failed, the harvest is gone, and a village is running out of time. A 13-year-old boy has been removed from school because his family can no longer afford the fees, but he keeps reading, keeps thinking, keeps returning to an idea that everyone around him is too exhausted and too defeated to entertain. What if he could build a windmill? Not to generate electricity in any grand sense, but to pull water from the ground and save the crops before the village starves. The obstacles are enormous. No materials, no resources, no one who believes it's possible except him. And yet, based on the true story of William Kamkwamba, this film is one of the quieter miracles in Netflix's catalog. Not because it wraps everything in warmth, but because it refuses to. The hardship is real. The grief is real. And the moment that one idea changes the direction of an entire community is handled with exactly the restraint it deserves. Some stories don't need embellishment. They just need to be told. 6. The Good Nurse. He was the most reliable colleague she had ever worked with. Patient, gentle, always there during the hardest shifts. For a nurse raising 2 kids alone while battling a serious health condition, finding someone who genuinely had her back felt like a rare and necessary gift. Then patients started dying in ways that didn't add up. Then investigators arrived with questions she wasn't prepared for. Then she had to choose between the loyalty she felt and the truth she was beginning to see. Based on real events surrounding one of the most prolific suspected serial killers in American medical history, this film doesn't rely on horror tropes or theatrical violence. Its power comes from something far more unsettling: the ordinary. The way evil can exist inside someone warm, someone helpful, someone you trusted. The performances carry everything, and the emotional weight of what it costs to do the right thing, the real cost, not the cinematic version, is what makes this one stay with you. 5. Calibre. 2 friends. A hunting weekend in rural Scotland. It's supposed to be simple, a few days away from real life, a chance to reconnect before everything changes. One of them is about to become a father. One of them is carrying a tension he hasn't named yet. And then, in a single moment in the dark woods, something goes terribly, irreversibly wrong. A decision is made. Another follows to cover it. And suddenly, these 2 men are trapped inside a small community where everyone knows everything, where hospitality is offered with one hand and suspicion grows quietly with the other. Guilt metastasizes. Paranoia sets in. The village that felt welcoming at arrival begins to feel like a closing fist. One of the leanest, most efficient thrillers in recent memory, built with almost no wasted scene, no wasted line. It understands that the most terrifying thing isn't a monster. It's a mistake you can't take back, surrounded by people who are starting to ask questions. 4. Glass Onion. A Knives Out mystery. A private island. A tech billionaire who believes he's smarter than everyone in the room. An invitation extended to a group of old friends, all of them connected, all of them with histories, all of them harboring something they'd rather not examine too closely. The plan is a murder mystery game, a weekend of constructed intrigue for people wealthy enough to pay for the illusion of danger. Then Detective Benoit Blanc shows up uninvited, and the illusion starts cracking almost immediately. Because something real is underneath all the performance. Something that has nothing to do with the game that was planned and everything to do with what was owed, what was taken, and who knew what all along. Sharp, funny, and more interested in ideas than it first appears, this is a mystery that uses the whodunit format to ask genuine questions about genius, loyalty, and the spectacular confidence of people who have never been told they were wrong. Peel back one layer. There's always another one underneath. 3. Mudbound. Mississippi. After the Second World War, 2 families worked the same land, one white, one black, each carrying its own impossible weight. The McAllens bought their farm with dreams of something better, and found only mud and backbreaking labor, and a patriarch whose bigotry poisons everything it touches. The Jacksons have worked that same earth for generations, with a dignity earned against decades of violence and exclusion. From each family, a young man returns from the war, both of them changed, both of them carrying things they cannot put down. They find in each other an understanding that the world around them refuses to allow, and the world around them will not permit it to last. Told in multiple voices and grounded in extraordinary performances, this film is about the distance between what this country promised and what it actually delivered, and what it costs the people caught in that gap. It doesn't offer resolution. It offers witness. And sometimes, that's the more honest thing. 2. The White Tiger. He was born in a village in the darkness of India, his words, not a metaphor. Balram has understood from childhood that the system he lives inside is not designed for him to rise. It is designed to keep him exactly where he was placed. He becomes a driver for a wealthy family, entering a world of air-conditioned apartments and foreign educations, and casual cruelty delivered with a smile, and he watches and learns and calculates. The film unfolds as a confession, a letter written years later to a Chinese premier, narrating with total clarity how he got from there to here. There is a crime at the center of it. There is ambition. There are moments of black humor so precise they feel like a wound. Adapted from the Booker Prize-winning novel, this is one of the more bracingly honest films about class and survival made in recent years. Not interested in making its protagonist likable so much as making him undeniable. You will root for him. You will be disturbed by that. That discomfort is the point. 1. Roma. Mexico City, 1970. Cleo wakes up early, cleans the floors, takes care of the children, folds the laundry, and does it again the next day. She is the invisible center of a middle-class household present for every moment, acknowledged in almost none. And while the family she works for navigates its own private collapse, her own life is quietly fracturing in ways she has no one to turn to. Shot in black and white and almost entirely without a conventional plot, this film is something rarer than a story. It is an act of memory, a sustained piece of attention directed at a woman who history would never have bothered to record. Alfonso Cuarón built this as a tribute to the woman who raised him, and the love in that intention is visible in every frame, but it never tips into sentimentality. The pain is real, the joy is brief and unguarded, and the famous ocean sequence toward the end carries more emotional force than almost anything else in cinema from the past decade. Number 1, because it earns it completely. And that's it. 20 hidden masterpieces on Netflix that deserve far more attention than they get. Every single one of them is worth your time, whether you're in the mood for a quiet drama that rearranges something inside you, or a thriller that keeps your eyes locked to the screen until the very last second. If you made it this far, I genuinely appreciate you. These videos take a lot of work, and knowing that someone is watching it all the way through makes it worthwhile. It would help me enormously if you took a moment to leave your like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. See you in the next one.